One of the big talking points this year, and an eventual runaway winner, was a series of commercials for the detergent brand Tide, parodying other TV commercials. Here's a quick look.
Yeah, just your typical Super Bowl car ad. Right?
Or a hilarious beer ad.
Or whatever ad this is.
Whatever. But it's a Tide ad.
What?
It's a Tide ad.
What makes it a Tide ad?
There are no stains. Look at those clean clothes. What else would this be an ad for?
Diamonds?
A gift that lasts for a...
No, Tide.
It's time for a cold refresher.
Tide ad.
Fall into the sleep of youth.
No. Tide. No. Tide ad.
Extreme.
No. Tide.
Tide!
Meet the all-new.
No, it's a Tide ad. Tide.
So, does this make every Super Bowl ad a Tide ad?
I think it does. Watch and see.
Now, Cinemark is the official Cannes Lions representative in South Africa and also helps take Mags on Media to this event. Motheo Motsao heads up marketing at Ster-Kinekor, and he joined me in the Giant Media Centre for a catch-up on where cinema is heading, how advertisers are using the medium, and the company's involvement in the Cannes Young Lions competition, of which we'll hear more a little later in the programme. So, Motheo, let me start with this, if I can, a couple of the broader themes that have emerged at this year's festival. The first thing is the whole notion of retail, and you're going to suggest to me that, contrary to a lot of thinking, it's not actually dead.
I've just come actually from a very interesting talk by Apple, and they're saying, you know, this notion that retail is dead is a misnomer, because from what they're seeing and from what they're doing, which is a couple of things. One, they're signing longer retail leases. They're expanding their retail network, both in numbers and in size. And they're saying the big differentiator, and for people like us at Ster-Kinekor, this means a lot, is that you cannot use retail only for the sale. 75% of the sale will still happen in retail, but people have options these days. You can buy online, etc. However, what retail does is it gives you an experience that can't be delivered online.
So there's also an indirect consequence as far as movie theatres and multiplexes are concerned. The more people you have in malls, I guess the better it must be for your business, obviously.
It should be, except our business, it's a bit trickier than that, because remember, coming to a movie, it's a 2.5, 3 hour commitment. So it doesn't follow that just because you're in the mall, you're likely to go watch a movie. The decision ought to have been made long before you get there. Even though, yes, in our case, the purchase still happens in cinema. So slightly different challenges for us because of the commitment and time and effort that you have to go through, or that you have to commit to go watch a movie. But yes, the fuller the mall, the better it is for us.
Go anywhere and you will bump into this phrase, brand purpose. What's your understanding of that?
I think what has happened in the last 3 years of this festival is there have been two themes that came through, and I think last year one took center stage, and now this year it's brand purpose. Last year, we remember there was a whole theme around women and bringing women through. That hasn't gone away. A third of the talks here are still about gender equality, gender inequality, women, unstereotyping women, etc. But I think brand purpose is taking center stage because everybody around the world, I think, is suffering from the same thing, which is smaller budgets and shrinking markets. And I think everybody's starting to realize or appreciate that your brand has to be more than just a brand. And it needs to be something that people believe, most importantly, around this brand purpose thing. And it needs to be something that adds or changes people's lives.
But the challenge, of course, is to amplify value as far as cinema is concerned.
I think for cinema it's a little more difficult. However, I can use our case in Ster-Kinekor. We've had a purpose now running for a couple of years, which is centered around eyesight. And we do that a lot, and we've been driving that. Yes, it started off as a CSI initiative, etc. But I think it's grown to become part of the brand and what the brand stands for. I mean, we give away more glasses than anybody outside the eyesight space in the country. So that is something that we've now gotten to embrace as part of our brand purpose, which is changing people's lives through eyesight. We've done corneal replacement surgeries that we've paid for. Our patrons donate R2.50 when they come to the movies, and people donate. So I think it's not easy for a cinema, because actually in cinema the product is the movie. which we don't even own. But I think we've found a nice positioning for Ster-Kinekor in that space.
And then a third concurrent theme that we have seen this year is this thing about disruption or hackvertising. What's your understanding in that respect?
In simple terms, I think hackvertising and disruption is basically a brand finding a segue into a conversation that it didn't start. You know, traditionally brands start these conversations. You know, we put out payoff lines, we put out advertising campaigns as brands and as brand managers. But hackvertising is interesting because what it does, or at least the philosophy behind it, is you let the consumer start the conversation and find an angle as a brand to fit in there and amplify it and own, or at least become part of the conversation, which I found fantastic. I saw the case study, Burger King is at it again. What a brand,
But hugely risky execution.
Extremely risky. So a couple of things I said to my colleagues when I saw the Burger King. One, you need to believe in your brand. You need to be extremely sure of what your brand is about. Two, you need to have a very strong legal team around you, which is one of the things they say as well. And thirdly, you just need to see the result before you start, because it's very easy to jump on the wrong bandwagon in terms of advertising and associate yourself with the wrong topic, or a topic that ends up in a place that you didn't anticipate. But for me, that advertising is probably the biggest eye-opener, because it costs nothing if you get it right. It will cost you your brand if you get it wrong, but if you get it right, it costs the brand nothing. And that was what I think is beautiful about it. And you don't generate the content. You're talking about things that people are already talking about.
It was? With net neutrality, you know, some people, for what it's worth, just, you know?
I don't know exactly, but it is.
Got a number one. Hey, how you doing?
Do you know what number 98, what's going on with it?
Number 98, you got the Whopper?
Yeah.
So you got the slow access Whopper pass?
Wait, what?
It's on the menu right there with the fast, medium, and slow.
Slow MBPS, fast MBPS, or hyper fast MBPS. MBPS, of course, standing for making burgers per second.
So if we want a Whopper now, we have to pay $26?
We don't make the rules.
You just enforce these ridiculous rules?
Fortunately, we have to.
Guys, come on.
I felt like I was being taken advantage of in a sense. Just as a customer coming in to get their food, it felt like a power move.
They already changed the policies overnight or whatever.
I didn't think that ordering a Whopper would really open my eyes up to net neutrality.
The Whopper actually taught me about net neutrality. It's stupid, but true.
All right, let's talk about cinema now, and particularly how it's been portrayed at this year's festival. Firstly, in 2018, is it a medium that is still fully entrenched?
As an advertising medium, still in a strong place. It hasn't grown a hell of a lot since last year. It's been maintained, which is a great thing in this market, to maintain rather than to decline. But I think 2018 is going to be better. The beginning of 2018 was already marked by great content. So that we have seen improve things a hell of a lot in the last 7 months or so. So I think it's still going to be tough for us. However, we've also seen the destruction of the other sort of traditional mediums. So we've seen what's happening at TV. We've seen what's happening on radio. And I think for cinema, the phrase would be, don't waste a good crisis. We need to find our space in that.
Having said that,
chaos.
though, you still have to amplify value both to audience and advertising.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm actually here with one of our clients who's a media buyer and a media strategist, and we agreed after a long debate that actually there's no problem with cinema delivering value. Value in terms of what people ask in the context of our medium is reach. We don't have a problem reaching people. I think the problem we have is because we're not a mass consumption type medium, people don't believe that you can get reach out of cinema. And we're going to run a few experiments with them and see how we improve that notion and prove to the world that cinema can deliver on just more than attention, which is what we're known for.
And then finally, are you seeing any new trends develop, whether it be internationally or locally, in terms of the type of audiences that are being attracted to the platform, to the medium of cinema?
I'd be lying to you if I said I know that it was a change in audience. What I can tell you is that we're seeing a change in palette, a change in cinema preference. Quick example, we have seen in the last 18 months to 2 years a slight growth in the consumption of horror as a genre in South Africa. From our research, you'd never guess who's driving that growth. It's young black women. Now, this is a market that wasn't even coming to the movies. And we have seen young black women drive up the consumption of horror as a genre.
Why?
I think they love being scared. I don't know. But I think it keeps you, I don't know. We haven't gotten to why, but I can tell you that with a couple of big hit horror movies that we've seen in the last year at least, the main audience that drove the uptake was young black ladies. That is an interesting space for us because now we need to answer the question you ask, why? And what else could they then be interested in if that's what they're loving? The other thing is the whole movement of women, and this we mustn't take for granted, it's the whole movement of women being independent, being strong, and being allowed to do things that traditionally boys would allow to do. We were raised that horror and action is for boys, and you know, we even have a term called chick flicks. And I think women have changed their thinking around that, and they're saying, why not? Why can't I go and watch a horror?
Mags on Media this week from the Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity. More from the sunny south of France when we continue.